Hi, I'm your host, Michelle Poverman, a former anxious empath turned mostly grounded psychotherapist, intuitive guide, and energy healer, and this is Into the Work. And it isn't just a podcast. It's your actual invitation to break free from old patterns, end the cycle of your self-abandonment, and finally step into the life your soul has been craving. Each episode is a spark to help you rise higher, to help you shine brighter and reclaim the truth of who you really are. The spark has already been lit. And sister, this is a journey from spark to brilliance. So together, let's go ignite a fire. So I have to start by sharing with you that we're all human, right? And I, not long ago, within the last couple of years, caught myself, when it was too late, by the way, in a sort of delusional, entrepreneurial, crazy game where I created this whole huge program and sold it before it was finished. And I'm sharing this with you because I was crazy. I was a lunatic for 3 months straight. I was spending every weekend with my head in my computer, completely stressed out, trying to make videos, create content. It was madness. And that whole experience did create something really incredible and beautiful, and it was wonderful, and I worked with most amazing women. However, I'm here to share the wound from this so that you can also appreciate why it was delusional, why it was crazy. Because I was honestly willing to burn myself out so harshly in order to create this thing and to help and to serve and to move forward in my business and create my business. And I was a lunatic. I was crazy. My family would attest. And so I'm sharing this with you because there are really important parts to growing and creating anything in our life. And just how we be in our life requires us to be both in our masculine and in our feminine. And I want to offer this little piece before we jump in here for you to take a look at this yourself and even use that lens as we go through this episode here today, that you have the masculine and the feminine. And your energy in the masculine is all about pushing and forcing and willpowering and making shit happen, getting it done. And the feminine is about alignment and flow, and it is about truly being in authenticity and truth and intuition and all that beautiful stuff. And we need both. If you run a business, your business needs both. It needs all parts of you, and it needs the feminine and the masculine in order to be successful. But when I woke up at 2 a.m., and that was the usual, and I was going over what I was going to say in the video that I was going to create the next day, I was crazed, right? I've been sleep deprived. And I remember sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, I did it. I did the thing that I learned a really long time ago to not do, right? So as we work through this and talk about this today, I want you to have compassion for your programming and how it's gotten you wherever it's gotten you. Some of it's good, some of it's great, and some of it's really hard. And I noticed that the girl, me, who once built a business off simply sitting with a calendar that was empty, putting some fake names in it and telling my husband that these people are going to come and see me. And that was my business plan. That's how I jumped into my practice. And guess what? Those women came and saw me. I had like 5 Catherines join. Well, there was a Kathy. I took all versions. Kathy, Catherine, Kathy with a K, Kathy with a C. Right? So like I had like 5 of them that signed up because the universe and I were in cahoots. We were speaking the same language. We were working together on my business, right? And so when I looked at where I was, where I'd gotten to in terms of my expansion, in terms of growing, I recognized, at 2:00 in the morning, I had an epiphany that holy shit, I have created the thing that I knew was absolutely the worst thing for me. And now, as I'm moving forward and creating new things, I start with every person I meet, especially coaches I work with, and I tell them, by the way, just so you know, I am absolutely 100% not willing to burn out. I'm just not willing. It's not an option. It's not a possibility. As soon as I catch it, I'm going to take care of it. And that is where we're starting, because today's episode is for you if you've ever suspected that the hustle that you've been doing isn't actually the answer, but you haven't quite given yourself permission to actually believe that. You might hear that like, oh, there's a lot about hustle culture, and you might have heard that that's not good for you, right? But what I'm here to tell you is that it is possible for you to be in the feminine and the masculine at the same time, for you to move this beautiful thing that you want to do in the world, whatever that is, and do it from a place of sovereignty and calm. And we don't have to be overwhelmed in order to grow. So today we are talking about your business as an extension of your energetic field. What that means, what it's broadcasting right now, right? What is it saying to you or about you? And most importantly, how can you shift it? How can you make changes? So welcome back to Into the Work. I'm Michelle Poverman, psychotherapist, coach, and someone who has personally done a lot of the work I'm about to describe. So let's go jump into it. I want to start with a premise, and I want you to sit with it rather than immediately decide whether or not you agree or disagree. I want you to imagine that your business is not separate from you, that it actually lives in your energetic field. Not metaphorically, not as a nice idea, right? Not like a nice spiritual idea, but actually energetically imprinted and breathing and living off of your energetic field. Everything your business produces, the offers that you create, the clients you attract, the revenue patterns you repeat, right? How you make money, how you be in the world. And if you don't have a business, honestly, this can still be really important for you to hear, because this is literally how I also help myself heal my Lyme disease. Our health conditions are in our field. All the things that we're going to talk about today around business can also be attributed to life. And so buckle up, because I think there's some really good inspirational stuff here for you to consider about where you're at in life and what you're doing. So imagine that all of this is emanating from a field, your field, right? And that field includes not just the conscious intentions, it's also about unconscious patterning, okay? Your physical, your emotional, your mental and spiritual bodies. That's how we refer to it when we look at the layers of your field. But most entrepreneurs, most people building business, and most of us out there are building from only 10% of what's actually running the show. So the other 90%, the inherited beliefs about money, the wounds that fire every time someone doesn't buy something or doesn't show up or ghosts you, the grief you haven't processed from a client who left out of nowhere, or the fear underneath the rebranding that you keep putting off, right? This is all in the field, and it's broadcasting a message, a frequency. Your clients feel it. Your pricing reflects it. The launch energy that you have, if that's something you do in your business, transmits it. This gap between what you say your business is and what your field says your business is, that gap is felt by everyone who comes into contact with you. Now, even if they can't name it, because they probably can't, right? There's something off here, it doesn't feel right, especially if they can't name it, I would say. So this is not a criticism. This is honestly the most liberating thing that I can tell you. So please stay tuned, because as we dig into this, you're going to see how liberating this can be and how you can let go a little bit and really see, okay, if I'm not working to the point of burnout, how do I do this? So, and again, if you don't have a business in life, you're also looking at utilizing this information into most things in your life. And so it can all help in terms of how you're seeing how you create in the world. So let me break this down a little more, because I want you to understand why this isn't just energy talk, quote unquote, right? There's real science underneath this, and there's real clinical observation from 20 plus years of working with women in transformation from me, right? And there's also bodies of science out there that have done some research. We can actually see what your field looks like if you've been stressed. And we can see what your field looks like after you've meditated or done yoga, right? We can actually see how it's restored and what it's supposed to look like. And so when we look at your business living in your field, and your field is made up of your, again, physical body, your emotional body, your mental, the spiritual sides, all these layers, when any one of them is out of coherence, the whole field reflects it. And I believe so does your business. So let's talk about the physical body, the physical layer of your field. We can see when someone has a chronically dysregulated nervous system. When your system is in a low-grade state of alarm, you make decisions from scarcity. You set timelines from fear. You price from what will they accept instead of what is it worth. So your body is not separate from your business strategy. Your nervous system state at the moment you write your sales page matters, right? If you're like, when I was rushing to get that program out, I was crazy, but I will say what I did do is I literally cleared my energy field every time I sat down because I knew I was crazy. I was like, I cannot appear crazy on this video that I'm creating, right? So I would become the vessel again. And I learned how to do that. And that is what actually got through. That's what made the program gold. That was a huge part of my growing process is I can learn how to do this and be the vessel still. I can be grounded and I can be open and I can just let the intuitive information come through me. However, did I feel well with that level of stress? Like when you just keep saying it doesn't matter, I'll sleep later, I'll rest later, I'll worry less later, because your body is part of the field that your business lives in, it matters. So the mental, emotional body, that other layer there, we're going to combine those two. That's where the inner critic lives, okay? So the perfectionism that you have, the cognitive distortions, the all or nothing thinking, the catastrophizing that you do over something small, especially when we're super stressed, the stories you have been telling yourself since childhood about whether you are someone who gets to have what she wants, right? What you want, what you're trying to build. Your mental and emotional body shapes what gets created, and more critically, what gets withheld. And so the things you haven't done yet, the program you didn't put out, or the pricing you haven't changed, the things you're holding back on start showing up for you, right? So the spiritual body last, I just want to say that's our sense of connection, your trust in something larger than maybe the numbers, right? Your quarter's revenue numbers, your capacity to be held, that idea that we have to surrender to the outcome. The spiritual body is what allows that kind of leap, that intuitive safety, that intuitive sense of it's all going to be okay, connected to something greater. And it is what keeps the vision alive when the metrics and the things that are happening in business are discouraging. So when the spiritual body is depleted, when you have lost the sense of meaning, when you're feeling disconnected from the calling, when, your genuine alignment with the work that you're doing, when the business just becomes a job, and a job that is also your identity and your income and your purpose, is a particularly exhausting thing to be grinding through. It is really exhausting, and it does take a hit on our identity, on our income, and our purpose, right? It is very challenging to be depleted and disconnected from the spiritual body in our business, and to try to keep pushing through. So we have this field, we have this business, we have whatever it is, the work you're doing in the world. They are not separate systems. They are one integrated transmission. And right now, today, the field that you have is broadcasting something. And the question is, what? And so we're going to dive into this a little deeper, and we're going to get to looking at that question. So I want to talk about money first, because this is where I see some of the most charged, most complicated energy in the women I know or work with, in myself too at times. And I think it's time we give this a different frame entirely. And many of you have heard this, but we have to hear it again, okay? So here is what money is not. Money is not a reward for your suffering. Money is not proof of worth. Money is not something you have to earn through exhaustion. Like, it doesn't equate it. Like, that's old school thinking, is you have to work yourself to the ground in order to be successful. And it is not something that exists in opposition to spirituality, to sensitivity, to depth, to true service. Here is what money is. It is energy. This is what you probably have heard, but needs to sink in deeper again today. Money is energy. It is a form of an exchange. It is a form of an energetic exchange. And like all energy, it flows, it stagnates, it responds to the field, it moves through, right? So like whatever's going on in the field, whatever's going on, what you're projecting out, what you're taking in, all of that affects money. And so when money flows, it means the exchange is coherent and value is moving and trust is present and the field is open and it's in flow. So when money stagnates, you're probably thinking, okay, I need to look at what's going on here. I need to diagnose the problem. Is it the sales page? Is it the way I'm bringing in to people through this funnel? Is it the marketing? Where is it going wrong? And I'm going to ask you to take on a different viewpoint than that. And it's not that those things aren't good. They're the masculine, right? We need the masculine, guys. The masculine is that scaffolding that holds it all together. It is important. However, I want you to ask yourself this question. Where is the energetic block in the exchange? Is there a block that you have in your receiving? Many empathic, deeply giving women are extraordinary at transmission. They pour value into people. They just pour love into people. They pour so much goodness. They hold space. They show up fully. And then they flinch when it comes to being paid for it fully without apology or without the immediate discount of like the unsolicited bonus that softens the ask, like whatever we can give more of, because it's really hard for us to receive, right? That same woman who pours out deeply struggles with receiving. And I bet you, this is you, if you're listening to this podcast, you likely understand this or have at some point in your life, maybe you've worked on it. But expanding your capacity to receive is not a personal development nice to have, okay? It is a direct revenue move. It's one I'm working on. It's one that a lot of the women that are out there like reevaluating their burnout are actually starting to look at. If you are in the world of being open to spiritual ideas and spiritual understanding of abundance and the things that are occurring in the world that you're like, wow, I want some of that. That sounds really good. This right here is key. This is so important. Now, I also want to ask, is the block, we're going to identify the block here, is the block in your belief about who you are in relationship to money? Because the story you inherited about whether money is safe, right? Are you a good person if you have a lot of money? Whether abundance is spiritual, whether wanting financial success makes you greedy or materialistic, or somehow less than a healer you want to be, that story is alive and well in your field, okay? The unconscious, all of that, unconscious limiting beliefs, patterns, all of it resides in our field, right? We always wondered, like, where is the unconscious? Where does that exist? Is that in my brain? It's in your field. And it is absolutely affecting your results. The question is there a block in the energetic exchange itself? You have to actually recognize what feels aligned with you and what doesn't. Burnout definitely comes into play when you have very little alignment with the things you're doing. You are not lit up by them. And it's not that listen, again, we have to do the masculine. And sometimes the masculine says, do shit you don't want to do. Don't get me wrong. There's boring shit to be done in running a business. And some of it is like, please God, get me to the point where I can hire someone else to do that for me, right? So when we look at the block in your energetic exchange itself, people can feel the difference between something built from overflow and something built from, I need this to work. You just can sense it and feel it before they've even said much, right? And from somebody who's calm and is open and loving and like just all good, you sense that too, because it's in the field, it's energetic. So when you're doing an exchange and you're looking at your relationship for money, sometimes it is a relationship to money that causes that exchange to get weird. When you see money as energy and you see it as also mirroring back to you what's going on, it's part of the field, right? Like that energetic responsiveness. A mirror of the exchange is happening between you, your work, and the people you're called to serve. And it flows where energy goes, right? It stagnates where energy stagnates. And that means you have influence over it that has nothing to do with working harder. And I love that part. That part I am trying to like breathe in, because honestly, we are so wired from the generations before us for something very different than that, right? So I love that. And so I'm going to say it to you again. It means that you can control or impact how much money you have without working harder, okay? Now, I want to say something that is going to feel a little counterintuitive. Okay, so stress and pressure are not required for financial success. In fact, for many of you, they are precisely what is preventing it. A lot of us believe that being stressed out means you care enough. It means you're doing enough. You want everybody to know how stressed you are, because then they can actually truly understand that you're doing enough, that you are enough, that you are worthy, any of those core wounds, but really the enough wound. And for empathic, spiritual, sensitive, oriented women, this narrative is not just false. It is actually, I think it's actively toxic. Because creative flow, your creative flow, does not come from constriction. It comes from space, spaciousness, capacity. And when your business and your bank account feel scarce and you are in a constant state of hustle, you're depleted, you're stressed, and you are truly constricted. Energetically, your field is constricted, right? And constriction cannot generate the expansion that you want. You cannot squeeze abundance out of a clenched field. So the invitation here is to ask yourself, what does my most powerful, regulated, spiritually connected self want to create? So let's look at reading your own field. How do you know if your field needs attention, if it is time to pause, if you need to recalibrate, if you need to take responsibility for the state of your business through this lens? I'm going to give you a few signs, and I want to be clear, these are not the signs everyone else is probably talking about, right? A lot of people, and myself included, I have talked about the fear of visibility, or putting yourself out there, or asking for more money, or all the red flags that are really significant flags to say, hey, I need to do some limiting belief work here. I need to go into myself. But I want to give you the more subtle signals. So I'm just going to give you a few examples for you to digest, and then you can open this up to see what this might be for you, how it might be different. Because your business is always communicating. The question is whether you're listening, okay? So I want you to look at, I'm going to take my example from the beginning, the 2 a.m. to-do list. So how are you sleeping? One sign I want you to pay attention to is your sleep. I want you to pay attention to, are you sleeping? Do you wake up at like 2 a.m. and start your to-do list? Are you rehearsing, preparing at 2 a.m? Not because you're a night owl, not because you've had too much coffee, but because your nervous system cannot put the business down. What it is actually happening is this threat loop. Your system has classified the business as a source of chronic alarm, and it cannot rest until the alarm is resolved. So when you cannot let the business rest, it's because some part of you believes that if you stop holding it all together, it's going to fall apart. That is not a strategy, sister. That is a wound running your business, and it will run it straight into the ground if you let it. I do want to say this, okay? Qualifier here, that sometimes at 2 o'clock in the morning, it's actually usually 4 for me, especially premenopausal women here. Sometimes I will get clarity. I will wake up, my brain will come out of dream state. I'll start thinking about a project I'm working on. Then I'm whirling through, and next thing I know, I got my phone out. I'm furiously typing in my notes because I am downloading this idea. Sometimes some of us do get hits the most easy at 4 o'clock in the morning. Why is that? Why is it that 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, we get these incredible hits of how we should do something, what we should say? I think it's because we're not allowing the time during the day. So it is still pointing the directions towards that how you're running things in this business, how you're showing up for it, is problematic to its success because it's problematic to your burnout. It's problematic. And so I just wanted to put that little caveat in there because I know some of you are like me and you're like, but I get some of the best stuff in the middle of the night. Yes, but it's also because it's also itself mirroring that you're not giving time during the day to actually allow space to be able to do that. So sign 2, you've stopped being funny or you've stopped being yourself, whichever version applies to you. The lightness is gone. The irreverence you once had doesn't feel as sharp. The pleasure in the work seems to be gone. Everything is really serious in your business right now. And here's the energetic read on that, because joy is expansive. Humor is a sign of nervous system flexibility. It truly is. Play is where your most original ideas come from. Right? When we playful, like that's when shit's flying through, right? That's why it's hitting us at 2 or 4 in the morning, by the way, because we're open. But during the day, we're so constricted. So when the business has consumed your personality, when you can't fully be present at dinner, right? You can't laugh without it feeling like you should be doing something else, like productive. And then another sign kind of similar to this, because I see this too. So your closest relationships have one topic. That your partner, your best friend, your sister, they all know what is going on in your business, like your revenue numbers, like your launch stress, the decision, the position you're trying to get, whatever is happening, your client drama. Every conversation eventually loops back to the business. And what's happening here? Like your people probably think like you're obsessive about the business, but what's happening underneath it, I want you to hear this, is that you're using the relationships in the environment around you to regulate the anxiety you have about your business, right? So, and you could apply this in life. Anything that you're doing where you're like, I keep talking to everybody about it, that means that you are trying to use them to help you regulate, and it never works. Like I have worked with people who literally will obsessively ask 7 to 8 people what they should do in their business about a decision. And everybody's burnt out and exhausted, and they never feel right. Whatever the feedback they get, it never resonates because it's not from them. So like it just never dies. The people you love have become unconsciously load-bearing walls for something they did not sign up to hold. And you are not actually present in those relationships. Connection is a resource, and you are spending it, not receiving it, right? And you are using it in a way that is not filling you up. It's just not. And you really have to come to that conclusion in order to make that shift. So this is sign 4. Overwhelm has become your identity. So let's talk about this one. It's like sort of tender, and I say it with tremendous love. But when I'm so overwhelmed, quote unquote, becomes the primary way you describe yourself to others, it has shifted from a temporary state to a self-concept. And a self-concept, it's your field, okay? It's layered in your field. You are now broadcasting overwhelm. That's what the universe is getting. That's what energy is in frequency is speaking and sharing and putting out, that this is what we do. We do overwhelm. Not just experiencing it, but you're actually broadcasting it. You're saying, hey, let's do more of this. Overwhelm as identity also keeps you from the responsibility reframe. Because if you are overwhelmed by circumstances, then you are a victim of them. And victims cannot shift fields. They can only wait for the circumstances to change. They don't take responsibility in it, right? Taking responsibility for the state of your business through an energetic lens is not self-blame. It's the opposite. It is recognizing that you have more agency here than the story of overwhelm will ever allow you to access. So getting out of overwhelm does mean getting out of victimhood. And it does mean I have agency for change. And that's not who I am. That's a mistake I was making. Sign 5, you're consuming more than you're creating. And this is a little thing I see a lot for people. You've got a lot of courses you haven't opened. You've got 3 new framework things that you're like want to implement, but you just never get to it. Maybe you have a podcast queue that's running till next March, right? Like you've got all this learning set up. This is a specific flavor of constriction that looks like growth, but it's actually a signal that you're putting out to your creative channel, that your creative channel is blocked. And when the well is dry, when depletion or fear has closed the channel, consumption fills the space, right? So if you are completely void of that intuition, if you're not feeling in flow, if you're not feeling creative or inspired, then we start to consume. It feels like forward motion, but it's actually your system looking for someone else's energy to borrow because yours is unavailable. And well, sometimes that's helpful because I'm a big fan of podcasts and learning and doing all the things. It's just that we have to tend to our garden. Like we have to tend to our energy field ourselves. And that's just a step that has us avoiding that, right? Going out and over consuming and filling our time with everybody else's energy isn't even necessarily what we need. And so I just want to point that out. So if any of these landed, good. The landing is information. It's not an indictment. It's just information. This is all just really good information for you to look at. Like, what's going on? How am I living in this business? How am I being? And that's really important. So now that we've done the diagnosis, let's talk about what actually moves the needle, right? We're looking at energetic upgrades, shifts you can make today that will change what your field is broadcasting. And I promise you, it can change what your business starts reflecting back. So upgrade 1 is moving from working on my business to tending to my field. So this is a language shift that is actually an identity shift. Your business is not a machine you operate. It is a living system, has its own ecosystem in itself that reflects you. And tending it means tending to yourself, which means tending to your nervous system. How are you taking care of that every day? Tending to the beliefs you have, tending to your alignment with the choices and decisions you're making. So upgrade 2, we're going to look at shifting pressure as fuel to coherence as power. So start asking this question regularly. Where am I using stress to feel productive? Where am I mistaking anxiety for motivation? And then what does my most regulated, spacious, spiritually connected self create when she's genuinely resourced? So the first few questions where I'm asking you to look at what is your attachment to stress? Are you using stress as a way to feel more productive? I'm so stressed. I'm so overwhelmed. There's so much to do. Are you mistaking anxiety for motivation? So when you feel internal pressure, it's like, okay, now I can move. Only when I feel pressured, I can move. And then we're going to switch over to the more coherence as power, which says, I have a whole other source of motivation. My most regulated, spacious, spiritually connected self, she's like the bomb. She's awesome. and she needs some things. And trust me when I tell you, and I know you know because you're a listener, that it feels freaking awesome to feel intuitively driven, right? To feel like you're lit up and something just opened inside you and you're like, yes, 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 I want that. That's motivation. But when we don't have that, we tend to do all the other things we talked about. And that is why I will die on the hill when I say this to you out loud, that your healed version of you is the most powerful business asset you have. She is worth protecting. She is worth building your schedule around. She is worth saying no for. That your business can only be good as the woman who is running it. And she needs you to show up and really see she's worth making all these changes for. Another upgrade is to add energetic ROI to your decision making. So an ROI is return on investment. So every offer, every client relationship, every content strategy has both a financial and an energetic price tag. And this goes for you in life, like anything that you're doing, that whatever you're doing, when you make decisions for your life, they have an energetic price tag. Some things that look profitable and awesome are draining you dry. Some things that look small are actually deeply rewarding. So start factoring in what's the energetic return on investment here. Ask not just, does this make me money, but does this feed my soul? Does this feed my field? Or is it going to deplete it? Because a fed field makes better money anyway, for longer, right? Because we can sustain it without burning out. And let your business be a mirror. I want you to resist the impulse to immediately want to work harder or overextend yourself. I want you to get curious instead. I want you to ask, what is this reflecting about me right now? Let this be a mirror. If this isn't working, what could that be telling me about me, how I'm operating, how I'm showing up? Is this an alignment, right? We're taking that energetic checklist and looking at that ROI again and saying, okay, so what is this mirroring back to me right now? Not as self-blame, obviously. And so the last upgrade I want to talk about is opening your receiving. We mentioned this before. I'll say it plainly again. Many of the most generous, gifted, empathic women I know are terrible receivers. They give value, they pour into their clients, and then they shrink when it comes to being praised or seen or supported or paid. Expanding your capacity to receive is not a soft skill. It's not. It is the energetic infrastructure of a thriving business. So the channel has to go both ways. Money flows towards women who can hold it. Opportunity finds women who believe they deserve it. And your business will always grow to the edge of your capacity to receive it and not 1 inch further. Literally, your business can only grow as much as you can receive it. And that, my friends, I have been talking about for like 10 years. It's a concept that I have just mulled over and had to do some deep work. I'm still doing deep work on this because really understanding what it is to be in the vulnerability of receiving. It's hard to understand, but I really have found it to be true that the more you work on that, the better you are at receiving. How are you at receiving presents? Someone comes around and they gift you and you don't have one for them. How do you feel? Are you freaking out? Right? Can you just receive without giving? There's just something so basic like that is so tied into your business. Your ability to receive will cap how much money you make, will cap how much business comes in. And I really believe that. So I want to close this with something I genuinely hope you carry out of this episode and into your week. And it is that you do not have to try this hard. I want to say that again because I know how long some of you have been pushing. I know how deep the belief runs that effort is the only thing keeping it together. You do not have to try this hard. Because the quality of energy you bring to the work matters infinitely more than the quantity of hours you spend in it. So this constricted version of you, running on cortisol, doing your 2 a.m. to-do list, performing presence in your relationships with your mind somewhere else, obsessing about the business, consuming content because your creative channel is too depleted, so you're filling up more time that you don't have, trying to figure out, learn something. So you shove more at it, right? The version of you cannot build what you are called to build because she is working against herself. The expanded version of you is regulated. She is trying to be resourced. She doesn't have to be perfect at it, but she's trying. She's spending her time. She's opening up to it. She's spiritually connected because she's creating some space for that. She's genuinely open to receiving what you have been working so hard to build. She's genuinely open to receiving it. She can imagine receiving it. She can wrap her arms around it. She can say thank you for it. She's very magnetic in that way. Her business reflects her wholeness, not her wounds. Hear me when I say this to you. There is a wise woman at your core. She is your truest self. She, not all the protective parts running on fear, she is the one to take on responsibility. You need to tap into her. You need to talk to her. You need to bring her forward. Taking responsibility for the state of your business through an energetic lens is not one more thing to add to the to-do list. It can feel like relief. So I'm like, I really want you to hear this episode as not, oh, I haven't been doing that. I really want you to hear it as hope, because it is this thing underneath every item on the list. It is the ground everything grows from. And there's so much hope in the idea that I can start tuning in, and I can, not with a new strategy, but with a question. What is my field broadcasting right now? What is it trying to mirror back at me? What is it that I need? What is it? And is it what I actually want to transmit? Is that what you want? And you are not building a business. You are becoming someone whose field can hold one. Differentiate that. Not just, I'm building the business. I have to place each brick down and concrete. You are literally someone whose field is learning how to hold one. And this is the work. And it is some of the most important work that we'll be able to do in this time. So before I let you go, I want to mention something that I am building that I'm genuinely excited about. I'm currently developing a new program specifically for women, probably like you, women who are empathic, established, spiritually oriented entrepreneurs who are doing everything right on the outside, but feeling that ceiling that we often talk about in my podcast here. Who knows in their bones that the block is not strategic, that knows that they need to get to the root. They need to heal the core wounds that are running their business from the unconscious crap that's going on, right? And then to learn how to build from a field that actually reflects who they're becoming. So if you resonate with my podcast in general, if you felt something shift along the way, these last episodes I've been building a lot of the conversation. I would love to have a conversation with you. Again, this is not a sales call because I'm not selling anything. I actually don't even have the program ready yet. But I am having these conversations to learn about people and what they're building. And if I can offer any advice, I will. Talking about 15 minutes or so, just a consult, so I can build this in such a way that really works for people. And we can have a real conversation about where you are, what you're building, and what is the right next step here. So you can find a link to book the consult in the show notes, and I would genuinely love to talk with you. All right, so thank you for being here. Thank you for doing the work, not just in your business, but in yourself. And that, my dear, is the bravest thing. So until next time, I'm Michelle Poverman. This is Into the Work. Take care of your field and have a great week. Bye for now. Thank you for joining me on Into the Work, Therapy for Empaths and Seekers. If this episode spoke to you, please follow the podcast and leave a review. It is the best way to spread this healing work to other women. Your presence here matters. Step into your power, heal your soul, and rise with women who are doing the same. Keep joining us every week, and together we can heal the world. If you're ready to dive deeper, grab your free Shadow Work Transformation Bundle in the show notes, and I will look forward to seeing you next week.